The dust swirled around his bare feet, each step as a testament to a dream that echoed in the quiet valleys of his childhood. He walked miles for school, every single day, rain or shine, hunger gnawing at his stomach, but his spirit unbreakable. Years blurred into a montage of late-night studies under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp, sacrifices made by his family, their unwavering belief a constant fuel. He left his village, a scholarship on his wings. The city is a stark contrast to the familiar Hill's university life. A whirlwind of new ideas, new faces. He met Sarah in a crowded lecture hall. Her laughter is like a melody, his quiet intensity drawing her in. A connection sparked amidst textbooks and deadlines. Their early 20s are filled with shared dreams, whispered promises under starry skies, the weight of expectations from their families, different backgrounds, different paths they were expected to take. He found himself stretched thin, a constant tightrope walk between the demanding lectures and the relentless pressure of his part-time work. The weight of tuition fees loomed large, a persistent shadow threatening to engulf his hard-won opportunity. Every assignment felt monumental, every exam a high-stakes gamble. Sleep became a luxury he could rarely afford, the quiet hours often filled with the rustle of papers and the strained focus under the harsh desk lamp. He'd grab hurried meals, often just a packet of biscuits or a cheap instant noodle cup, the taste of exhaustion clinging to every bite. Sarah, witnessing his relentless efforts, became his anchor. Her unwavering belief in his potential was a constant source of strength, a gentle reminder of the dream that had propelled him this far. She'd bring him home-cooked meals, a small act of care that spoke volumes in the language of their shared struggle. Her encouragement wasn't just words. It was a tangible presence, a steady hand holding his when doubt threatened to overwhelm him. They'd steal moments together amidst their demanding schedules, brief respites in the library or a quiet corner of the campus, these stolen moments of connection serving as vital fuel for his weary spirit. He often felt the immense pressure of being the first in his family to reach this level of education, the hopes and sacrifices of his loved ones resting squarely on his young shoulders. The fear of failure was a constant companion, a nagging voice whispering doubts in the quiet hours. Yet Sarah's unwavering support, her quiet confidence in his abilities, acted as a powerful counterforce, reminding him of his own resilience, the miles he had already walked, both literally and figuratively, to reach this point. Her love wasn't just romantic, it was a practical, steadfast partnership forged in the crucible of shared hardship and unwavering belief in a brighter future they were both striving to build. Then came the phone call, the voice on the other end thick with a familiar tremor, each word a heavy stone dropping into the fragile pool of his university life. His mother, her illness had taken a sudden, sharp turn. The details were hazy, filtered through the distress in his brother's voice, but the urgency was unmistakable. A frantic scramble for bus fare, the agonizing wait for the journey back home, each passing mile stretching into an eternity, the familiar landscape of his village now imbued with chilling unfamiliarity, the air thick with worry and the unspoken fear of loss. Seeing his mother frail and weakened in her bed, the vibrant energy he remembered now dimmed, struck him with a force that knocked the breath out of him. The weight of helplessness pressed down on him, the stark reality of his distance, his inability to have been there, a sharp pang of guilt. The medical expenses were mounting, a crushing burden on his already struggling family. The dreams of his future, the academic pursuits that had consumed his every waking moment, now felt distant and almost selfish in the face of this immediate crisis. He felt the pull of responsibility with an intensity he had never known before, the ingrained understanding that his place was here, by his family's side. The question of his studies, his carefully laid plans, hung in the air, unspoken but heavy with uncertainty. His father's weary eyes, his siblings' hushed anxieties, all spoke of the precariousness of their situation. He spent his days tending to his mother, the sterile smell of medication replacing the familiar scent of his textbooks. The nights were filled with worry, the silence punctuated by the soft sounds of his mother's labored breathing. The fragility of life, once an abstract concept, now a stark and painful reality staring him in the face, forcing him to confront the true cost of his ambition and the unbreakable bonds of family. Sarah's career, meanwhile, had begun its ascent with a momentum that was both exhilarating and subtly isolating. Long hours became the norm, the demands of her burgeoning profession consuming her time and energy. The initial excitement of new projects and increasing responsibility was often tempered by the exhaustion of late nights and the constant pressure to perform. Her phone calls with him became shorter, punctuated by apologies for her demanding schedule, the background noise of her busy office. Stark contrast to the quiet stillness of his family home. She excelled in her field, her talent and dedication earning her recognition and opportunities that had once seemed distant aspirations. Yet, with each professional milestone, a subtle shift occurred in their dynamic. The shared experiences that had once formed the bedrock of their connection began to feel increasingly disparate. Her world was now filled with industry jargon, networking events, and the fast-paced rhythm of corporate life, a world that felt increasingly removed from his current reality. The unspoken anxieties began to weave their way into their conversations. the subtle awareness of their diverging paths creating a delicate tension. She worried about him, about the strain he was under, the uncertainty of his future. He, in turn, felt a growing sense of distance, a fear that their shared dreams were slowly being eroded by the realities of their separate lives. The physical distance was compounded by an emotional one, the ease of their earlier conversations replaced by a careful navigation of their differing experiences. While she celebrated his resilience and his commitment to his family, a quiet concern lingered, a fear that the chasm between their worlds was widening, making it harder to envision a shared future, the comfortable intimacy they once shared now feeling like a precious but fading memory. The email arrived late one night, the subject line stark against the muted glow of his laptop screen: International Research Opportunity. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. Elation at the prospect of finally achieving a significant step towards his academic goals, the chance to immerse himself in his field, to learn from leading experts. But beneath the surface of excitement lay a gnawing unease, a heavy weight in his chest. The location was continents away. The duration, several years. This wasn't a short-term opportunity, it was a complete uprooting, a severing of the fragile threads that still connected him to Sarah, to the life they had tentatively begun to rebuild after the crisis back home. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him, that accepting this offer would irrevocably alter the course of their relationship. It was the chance he had worked tirelessly for, the very opportunity that could lift his family out of their financial struggles and secure their future. The weight of that responsibility was immense, a silent promise he had carried for years. Yet, the thought of leaving Sarah, of the vast distance that would stretch between them, filled him with a profound sense of loss. He pictured her face, her smile, the comfortable silences they shared, and the prospect of replacing those with hurried video calls across time zones felt like a cruel trade-off. This wasn't just about a job, it was about choosing between two fundamental aspects of his life, his ambition and his love. The allure of the opportunity was undeniable, a beacon of hope for his family's future, but the cost, he knew, would be significant, potentially irreparable, to the fragile bond he shared with Sarah. The decision felt like standing at a crossroads, each path leading to a drastically different future, and the weight of choosing correctly pressed down on him with suffocating force. The park bench was their familiar sanctuary, a silent witness to countless shared moments, whispered dreams, and quiet understandings. But tonight, the atmosphere was different, charged with an unspoken tension that hung heavy in the cool evening air. The city lights twinkled around them, a vibrant backdrop to the quiet devastation of their conversation. He laid out the opportunity, the words carefully chosen, yet each syllable felt like a tiny hammer blow against the fragile foundation of their relationship. Sarah listened intently, her gaze fixed on the distant cityscape, her silence more telling than any words. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, tinged with a sadness that mirrored his own. She understood his ambition, the sacrifices he had made, the immense responsibility he felt towards his family. She didn't try to dissuade him, didn't plead with him to stay. Instead, she spoke of the practicalities, the sheer difficulty of maintaining a long-distance relationship across such vast distances and time differences. She spoke of the separate lives they were already beginning to build, the different trajectories of their careers, the subtle but persistent erosion of their shared daily experiences. Tears welled in her eyes as she spoke of the fear of growing apart, of the slow fading of the intimacy they had once cherished. He reached for her hand, his own trembling slightly, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions, with the acknowledgement of a painful truth. They both knew that this opportunity, while a significant step forward for his future and his family, likely marked a turning point in their relationship. The love they shared was undeniable, but the realities of their separate lives, the miles that would soon separate them, presented a challenge that felt almost insurmountable. The unspoken question hung in the air. Could their love withstand this distance, this divergence of paths? The answer remained elusive, shrouded in uncertainty and the profound sadness of a love facing an almost impossible test. The departure was a blur of hurried goodbyes at the airport, a final embrace that held the weight of unspoken anxieties and a profound sense of loss. The sterile environment of the terminal amplified the rawness of their emotions, the forced smiles of fragile mask over the underlying sadness. He watched her receding figure until it disappeared into the crowd, a poignant image that would be etched in his memory. The silence in his small, unfamiliar apartment in the new city was deafening, a stark contrast to the comfortable familiarity of his previous life. The time difference created a frustrating barrier to communication, their calls often relegated to snatched moments amidst their busy schedules, the connection feeling tenuous and strained. Letters became their primary form of communication, handwritten words carrying the weight of their emotions across the miles, each page a testament to their efforts to bridge the physical gap. But even these tangible expressions of their feelings couldn't fully replicate the ease and intimacy of their shared presence. The demands of his new research consumed his days, the initial excitement often overshadowed by a persistent loneliness. He missed Sarah's laughter, her comforting presence, the small, everyday moments they had once taken for granted. The distance seemed to amplify their differences, the nuances of their daily lives becoming increasingly unfamiliar to the other. The effort required to maintain their connection was immense, a constant uphill battle against the relentless pull of their separate realities. Doubts began to creep in, insidious whispers questioning the long-term viability of their relationship. The vibrant tapestry of their shared past began to feel like a faded photograph, a beautiful memory that was slowly losing its clarity against the backdrop of their increasingly divergent present. The miles weren't just a physical separation, they were creating a growing emotional chasm, a silent testament to the challenges of sustaining love across continents and diverging life paths. Sarah threw herself into her work with renewed vigor, the demanding hours offering a strange sort of solace, a distraction from the quiet ache of his absence. The professional accolades continued to accumulate, each achievement a testament to her talent and dedication. Yet, the celebratory dinners and congratulatory messages often felt hollow, the joy muted by the absence of the one person she truly wanted to share them with. Their favorite coffee shop, once a haven of shared laughter and intimate conversations, now held a bittersweet pang of nostalgia. She'd find herself instinctively looking for him in the familiar corner booth, the ghost of his presence a constant, gentle reminder of what they had lost, or perhaps, what was slowly slipping away. Her friends offered well-meaning advice, encouraging her to move on, to embrace new experiences. She dated occasionally, polite encounters that ultimately left her feeling more disconnected, the easy familiarity she had shared with him proving to be an impossibly high bar. His letters arrived sporadically, each one a precious connection to his world, filled with details of his research and occasional, carefully worded expressions of longing. But the silences between the lines often spoke volumes, hinting at the growing distance in their daily lives, the subtle shifts in their perspectives. She found herself carefully curating her own letters, hesitant to burden him with the mundane details of her life, the unspoken fear that their realities were becoming too disparate to bridge. The vibrant energy she once possessed felt subtly diminished, replaced by a quiet resilience, a determination to build a fulfilling life on her own, even as a part of her continued to hold on to the memories of what they had once shared, the echoes of his laughter a bittersweet melody in the quiet moments of her day. Years spun into a tapestry of separate experiences, each thread woven with individual triumphs and solitary challenges. He established himself in his field, his research gaining recognition, his name becoming increasingly respected in academic circles. The initial pangs of loneliness softened into a quiet acceptance of his new reality, his focus sharpening on his work and the responsibilities he carried for his family back home. He formed new friendships, navigated new professional landscapes, his life in the distant city taking on a rhythm and routine that felt increasingly natural. Sarah continued to excel in her career, taking on leadership roles, her influence within her industry growing steadily. She built a comfortable life for herself, surrounded by supportive friends and fulfilling work. The memories of their shared youth, once so vivid and present, began to recede into the quieter corners of her mind, resurfacing occasionally with a gentle pang of nostalgia, like revisiting a beloved but distant dream. Their communication became less frequent, the long, heartfelt letters replaced by occasional emails, brief exchanges that acknowledged the passage of time and the significant changes in their lives. They would inquire about each other's well-being, offer polite congratulations on professional achievements, but the easy intimacy of their earlier connection had faded, replaced by a respectful distance. The shared dreams of their early 20s, the whispered promises under starry skies, now felt like relics of a different era, a chapter in their lives that had closed, leaving behind a sense of fondness and a quiet understanding of the divergent paths they had ultimately taken. Their lives, once intertwined, had branched out, each flourishing in its own direction, the strong current of time carrying them further apart. The invitation arrived unexpectedly, an official letter bearing the crest of his alma mater. He read the words carefully, a sense of disbelief washing over him. Distinguished alumni speaker. His name. His achievements. A request for him to return to the very place where his journey had begun, to share his story, his insights, with the current generation of students. A full circle moment. The boy who had walked miles barefoot, fueled by an unyielding thirst for knowledge, was now being recognized for the very pursuit that had once seemed like an impossible dream. The news resonated deeply, a validation of the sacrifices he and his family had made. A wave of nostalgia washed over him, memories of the dusty paths, the dim kerosene lamp, the unwavering support of his loved ones flooding his mind. He accepted the invitation without hesitation.
A sense of profound gratitude and a quiet excitement building within him. This wasn't just a professional honor, it was a deeply personal homecoming, a chance to reconnect with his roots, to acknowledge the long and arduous journey that had brought him to this point. The prospect of standing on that familiar stage, not as a struggling student but as a respected professor, filled him with a quiet sense of triumph, a tangible manifestation of the dreams he had once dared to hold onto against all odds. The return felt significant, a poignant reminder of how far he had come, the miles he had traversed, both literally and figuratively, to reach this unexpected and deeply meaningful milestone in his life. The auditorium was filled with a sea of young faces, eager and expectant. He stood backstage, a familiar knot of nerves tightening in his stomach, a sensation he hadn't felt since his own student days. He scanned the audience as he walked onto the stage, a fleeting glimpse of familiar features in the middle rows causing his heart to skip a beat. Sarah. Older, perhaps a touch more refined, but undeniably her. A jolt of recognition, sharp and unexpected, momentarily stole his breath. Years melted away in that instant, the intervening time collapsing into a single, powerful moment of rediscovery. The years of separate lives, the miles that had stretched between them, seemed to dissolve as their eyes met across the crowded room. A flicker of something familiar, a ghost of the connection they had once shared, sparked in that brief exchange. It was a moment suspended in time, a silent acknowledgement of their shared history, a poignant reminder of a bond that had once been so strong. The surprise was palpable, a sudden, unexpected turn in a narrative he thought had long been settled. The carefully prepared words of his speech momentarily forgotten, his focus narrowed to the familiar face in the audience, a face that held a key to a significant chapter of his life, a chapter he thought he had closed long ago. The unexpectedness of her presence hung in the air, a silent question mark in the carefully constructed narrative of his present. The reception after his speech was a blur of polite congratulations and well-wishers. He found himself scanning the room, a subtle but persistent search for the familiar face that had caught his eye. Then, she was there, standing slightly apart from the crowd, a hesitant smile gracing her lips. Their initial exchange was tentative, filled with the polite awkwardness of two people who once knew each other intimately but now found themselves navigating the unfamiliar terrain of years apart. "It's been a long time," she said softly, her voice a familiar melody that sent a ripple of unexpected emotion through him. "It has," he replied, a simple statement that carried the weight of unspoken history. They spoke of the weather, the changes to the university campus, the superficialities of catching up after years of silence. But beneath the surface of their polite conversation, a deeper current flowed, a shared awareness of the significant life events that had transpired in their separate worlds. There were hesitant inquiries about each other's careers, carefully worded questions about their personal lives, the unspoken question of what if hanging delicately in the air between them. The years of separation had created a distance, a need to tread carefully, to rediscover the contours of the people they had become. Yet, amidst the awkwardness, there was also a flicker of the old connection, a shared understanding that transcended the years and the miles. It was a tentative re-entry into a shared past, a cautious exploration of the possibility of a renewed connection in their present. They found a quiet corner away from the bustling crowd, the noise of the reception fading into a muted background. Hours melted away as they talked, the initial awkwardness gradually giving way to a more comfortable familiarity. They shared the journeys they had undertaken, the challenges they had faced, the triumphs they had celebrated in their separate lives. He spoke of the demanding years of research, the satisfaction of his academic achievements, the unwavering support he continued to provide for his family. She recounted her professional trajectory, the hurdles she had overcome, the sense of fulfillment she found in her work, while also hinting at the quiet loneliness that had occasionally punctuated her success. There was a raw honesty in their conversation, a willingness to be vulnerable, to share the parts of their lives that hadn't always been easy or picture perfect. They spoke of the people who had come and gone, the lessons they had learned, the ways in which they had grown and changed. It was a process of reacquainting themselves with the individuals they had become, acknowledging the impact of time and experience on their perspectives and priorities. The shared history they possessed provided a unique foundation for their conversation, a shorthand understanding that transcended the need for lengthy explanations. They revisited old memories, shared laughter over past experiences, and acknowledged the significance of their early connection in shaping who they were today. It was a process of weaving together the threads of their separate narratives, finding the points of convergence and divergence, and beginning to understand the intricate tapestry of their individual journeys. As the hours passed, a familiar warmth began to rekindle, a gentle flickering in the embers of their shared past. The easy camaraderie they had once known resurfaced in shared smiles and knowing glances. There was an undeniable comfort in their conversation, a sense of being truly seen and understood by someone who had witnessed their formative years. The years of separation seemed to momentarily recede, replaced by the echo of shared dreams and whispered secrets. Yet beneath the surface of this renewed connection lay the tangible weight of their separate lives. He spoke of his established career overseas, the commitments he had made, the life he had built. She spoke of her own professional success, her deep roots in the city, the independent life she had cultivated. The practicalities of bridging the geographical distance and the established routines of their individual lives loomed large, an unspoken question mark hanging over the possibility of anything more than a nostalgic reconnection. The old spark was undeniably there, a flicker of the intense connection they had once shared, but it was now tempered by the wisdom of experience and the awareness of the significant changes they had both undergone. The path forward, if there was one, remained unclear, shrouded in the complexities of their present realities and the uncertainties of rekindling a romance that had been dormant for so long. The possibility of something more was tantalizing, but the obstacles seemed significant, requiring a leap of faith and a willingness to navigate the intricate landscape of their very different lives. In the days that followed their unexpected reunion, they found ways to stay in touch. Emails became more frequent, longer, delving beyond the superficialities of their initial conversation. He learned about the recent challenges she had faced, a significant setback in her career that had shaken her confidence, followed by the profound grief of losing a close family member. He listened with a depth of understanding that transcended the years and the miles, offering words of comfort and support that resonated with her in a way that no one else's could. His presence, even in the form of written words, became a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't alone in her struggles. He didn't offer platitudes or easy solutions. Instead, he provided a steady, unwavering presence, a listening ear that allowed her to process her grief and her anxieties without judgment. She, in turn, saw a different side of him, a vulnerability that had perhaps been masked by the ambition of his younger years. His genuine empathy and his quiet strength offered her a sense of solace and understanding that was deeply comforting. Through their continued communication, the layers of their separate lives began to peel away, revealing the enduring core of their connection, a shared history and a mutual respect that had weathered the test of time and distance. The rekindled flame of their past began to be nurtured by a renewed sense of emotional intimacy, a gradual rebuilding of the trust and understanding that had once formed the foundation of their relationship. She observed him during his return visit, not just as the accomplished professor the university celebrated, but as the young man she had once known, the quiet intensity and unwavering determination that had always defined him now tempered by a hard-earned wisdom and a genuine humility. She witnessed the impact of his journey on the students he addressed, the genuine inspiration he offered through his own story of perseverance. The years had etched lines of experience on his face, adding a depth of character that she found profoundly compelling. The ambition she had once witnessed now seemed balanced by a quiet confidence and a genuine desire to give back. She found herself drawn not just to the memories of their shared past, but to the man he had become, a man whose journey had been marked by both hardship and remarkable achievement. There was a renewed respect for his resilience, for the unwavering spirit that had carried him through countless obstacles. She saw beyond the geographical distance and the professional success, recognizing the fundamental qualities that had drawn her to him in the first place: his integrity, his kindness, and his deep-seated empathy. The years apart had perhaps stripped away the youthful idealism, replacing it with a more mature and grounded appreciation for the complexities of life and the enduring power of genuine human connection. Her feelings for him began to evolve, moving beyond nostalgia towards a deeper, more profound recognition of the man he was now. The question that hung unspoken between them for days finally surfaced during a late-night video call, the digital divide momentarily shrinking as they gazed at each other across continents. Should they, attempt to bridge the chasm of years and distance that separated their lives? The vulnerability in their voices was palpable as they laid bare their fears and their hopes. The risk of reopening old wounds, of investing emotionally in a connection that had once faltered under the weight of circumstance, was a significant deterrent. Yet, the undeniable pull of their shared history, the unexpected depth of their renewed connection, presented a compelling counterargument. The fear of history repeating itself, of once again allowing distance and diverging paths to erode their bond, was a heavy weight to consider. But equally potent was the fear of regret, of wondering what if they didn't seize this unexpected second chance. The decision felt monumental, a precarious leap of faith into the unknown, with no guarantees of a soft landing. It required a willingness to confront the practical challenges of their separate lives and a profound level of trust in the enduring strength of their connection. The comfortable certainty of their established routines would need to be disrupted, their individual priorities potentially realigned. The path forward was shrouded in uncertainty, a delicate dance between the pull of the past and the uncharted territory of a potential future together. The complexities of their individual circumstances added further layers to their already challenging decision. He had built a life overseas, a career that had taken years of dedication to establish, and a responsibility to his family that remained a central tenet of his existence. Appending that life would involve significant professional sacrifices and logistical hurdles. His family, while supportive of his happiness, had also come to rely on his stability and success in his current location. Sarah, on the other hand, had deep roots in her city, a thriving career she had painstakingly cultivated, and a network of friends and colleagues that formed the fabric of her daily life. Asking her to uproot herself and relocate across continents was a significant ask, one that carried the weight of potentially sacrificing her own hard-won independence and professional standing. The practicalities of visas, career transitions, and navigating a new cultural landscape presented formidable obstacles. Their conversations delved into these realities, the honest acknowledgement of the significant adjustments that would be required on either side. There were no easy answers, no simple solutions to the intricate web of their established lives. The potential for resentment or unmet expectations loomed large if either of them felt they were making disproportionate sacrifices. The path forward required not just emotional commitment, but also a pragmatic and realistic assessment of the significant logistical challenges they would need to overcome. Their conversation was quiet, earnest, stripped bare of pretense or romantic illusions. They spoke with the honesty that comes from years of individual growth and a shared understanding of life's inherent uncertainties. They laid bare their deepest fears, the fear of vulnerability, the fear of failure, the fear of repeating past mistakes. But they also spoke of their hopes, the possibility of rediscovering the deep connection they once shared, the potential for a richer, more fulfilling future together, the comfort of having a true partner who understood their journey. They acknowledged that life rarely adhered to a predictable script, that relationships required constant effort, compromise, and a willingness to navigate unforeseen challenges. There was no fairy tale ending guaranteed, no assurance that rekindling their romance would be easy. But there was a mutual recognition of the profound connection that still existed between them, a sense that their story might not yet be finished. They spoke of taking things slowly, of building a new foundation based on the wisdom of their experiences and a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. It wasn't about erasing the past but about learning from it, about approaching a potential future with open hearts and realistic expectations. The decision they tentatively reached was one of hope tempered by pragmatism, a willingness to explore the possibilities without ignoring the very real challenges that lay ahead. They decided to take a chance, a hesitant but hopeful step forward into the uncertain terrain of a rekindled relationship. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic declaration of eternal love, but rather a quiet agreement to explore the possibilities, to see if the enduring connection they felt could withstand the realities of their separate lives. There would be no sweeping gestures or unrealistic promises, but instead, a commitment to open communication, to navigating the logistical challenges with patience and understanding. The miles would still exist, the time zones would still present obstacles, but there was a newfound determination to bridge those gaps, to prioritize their connection amidst the demands of their careers and responsibilities. It was a leap of faith, not based on the idealized memories of their youth, but on a mature appreciation for the individuals they had become, and the unexpected depth of their renewed understanding. They agreed to frequent visits, to carving out dedicated time for each other, to weaving their lives back together, thread by fragile thread. There was an acknowledgement that the path ahead would likely be filled with challenges, but there was also a shared belief in the potential for a deeper, more resilient love, forged in the crucible of time and distance. It was a cautious optimism, a willingness to embrace the uncertainty with open hearts and a shared commitment to making it work, one step at a time. The journey ahead was undeniably complex, a delicate balancing act between their established lives and the burgeoning possibility of a shared future. There were logistical hurdles to overcome, career adjustments to consider, and the emotional navigation of reintegrating their separate worlds. There were moments of doubt, fleeting anxieties about the practicality of their long-distance relationship, the fear that the challenges might ultimately prove too great. But these moments were often countered by the profound joy of their reunions, the comfort of being together again, the rediscovery of the deep connection that had always existed between them. They learned to cherish their time together, making the most of every shared moment, and to communicate openly and honestly during their periods of separation. There were shared sunsets witnessed across continents via video calls, whispered secrets exchanged across time zones, and a growing understanding of the sacrifices and compromises that would be necessary. The path wasn't always smooth, but it was paved with a renewed sense of purpose, a shared determination to nurture the fragile flame of their rekindled love. The challenges they faced only seemed to strengthen their bond, forging a deeper appreciation for the preciousness of their connection and the importance of prioritizing their relationship amidst the demands of their individual lives.